Black to me is relentless. Black has no excuses. It just keeps coming at you.
Black is like blood, you know, for the All Blacks. It's in all of us.
Well, black to me is magic.
Black for me means respect.
Pour moi, le noir, c'est le mystère.
Black is evil, black is somber, but at the same time, black represents us, you know, the All Blacks, and that's our colour.
On halfway.
The All Blacks jersey is recognised all over the world. It's well known that it represents much more than just a single team and much more than just a sporting code. It is an icon in the true sense, a symbol of greatness. But for more than a century, the jersey has been evolving and transforming. And of the many stories woven into it, there is a story of science and technical innovation, because the jersey sits on the very edge of what is possible in sport.
It encompasses more than just a jersey. It holds a lot of tradition. It holds a lot of mana, holds a lot of history.
Some people may think it's a bit of fabric, it's got a silver fern, yeah, it's black, but it's so much more than that. Every time you put it on, it's like a piece of armour that just you draw strength from.
There's no doubt the silver fern and the all blackness of the jersey is a very important part of who we are. That jersey represents New Zealand, it represents the All Blacks and all the things that have happened before. So you want all your moments in it to be the best that they possibly can be.
When you slip it on, it makes you feel like you're 10 feet tall and you're bulletproof and you can run through a brick wall, and it would take you right to the limits, physically, mentally, emotionally, in every way.
I put it as the greatest thing that can happen to a person in his sporting career, any rate, is to have the honour to put on that black jersey. It's one you should treasure because it doesn't last forever. It means you've got to win.
Wearing the black jersey, the All Blacks have become the most successful rugby team in the world, a dominance that has cast its influence across generations.
Nous, Français, ont toujours été élevés dans l'admiration et dans la vénération des Néo-Zélandais et de leur jeu.
Facing the All Blacks was always something I grew up to aspire to.
The Springbok knows if he plays a few test matches, that's all well and good, but if he doesn't get to play against the All Blacks, he doesn't ever judge himself against the best. And since I was a young boy, that would always epitomise the greatest rivalry you can have on a rugby field.
You know, I grew up in a sporty household, but you didn't see rugby from foreign lands every week on TV like you can now. So when the All Blacks came over, it was huge. These were the gods, you know, the All Blacks.
Gregan heaves it out to John Eales.
The first time I watched the All Blacks play was in 1978, and Australia had a record win against the All Blacks. And I remember going outside to kick the footy, you know, with my neighbour, and he said, "What a great win." I said, "Yeah, but it was only against New Zealand." And he actually stopped me and sat me down. He said, Look, you don't realise what you just saw. The All Blacks are the best team in history. No one beats the All Blacks like that. And I saw a lot more games that were very unlike that game in the rest of my time growing up.
Il y a un tel amour pour leur maillot, pour cette équipe, qu'il n'y a nulle part ailleurs dans le monde. Aucune équipe de rugby n'a ce soutien.
The winning record of the All Blacks makes them not just the most successful rugby team of all time, but the most successful professional sports team in the history of all sports, and they are the current world champions. They are hoping to repeat their 2011 victory in 2015.
You go into a year like this year, and we were attempting to be world champions again. It's the greatest challenge you can have in sport. What's happened before, leading up to it means absolutely nothing. It's been the best team on the day, and to get that right, you've got to get everything lined up to ensure that you perform and it really counts.
Adidas have been the makers of the jersey since 1999, and it's their responsibility to create a new jersey for 2015 that will hopefully assist the team in becoming back-to-back world champions, a feat that's never been achieved before.
A rugby jersey in many ways is the ultimate piece of sporting apparel. There's no piece of apparel in any other sport, in any other industry, that goes through the same kind of wear and tear that you get in a rugby jersey. Imagine going onto the field to play with the All Blacks wearing a basic t-shirt. It would last about a second and a half before it was torn to shreds. There's nothing harder in the sports marketplace to create.
Every time we launch a new jersey, it's a new challenge to rise not only to the level that you got to in the previous jersey, but surpass it, because we're talking millimetres, centimetres, hundredths of a second that we're trying to improve on a player's performance.
The complete minimum for us going into this was to create the most innovative jersey of all time.
To come up with a breakthrough technology in 4 years might seem very straightforward, but it's not. I mean, we really have to go out there, find the latest technology, study the latest science, work with the athletes, just to find those little margins that we can try and bring to life in the new jersey design.
Making a new All Blacks jersey will take a team of more than 50 people, more than 100,000 hours. It's a process no one outside Adidas has seen before. The development of a new All Blacks jersey is a process where everything goes under the microscope to find its strengths and weaknesses, even the colour.
Obviously the jersey has to be black. We know that. That's the easiest thing to do every season. But this time we really wanted to go into what the meaning behind the black was. I actually started reading one of the Ron Polanski books, and I came across a quote. The quote was by the Welsh rugby player Gareth Edwards, and the quote read, "There's something about the blackness of an All Blacks jersey that sends a shudder through your heart." And when we read that, we instantly knew there was something in there.
Here's Edwards on the blind.
I can always remember playing the All Blacks and the blackness of that jersey and what it actually meant. It really sent a chill through your body, a shudder through your heart. And I don't want to sound too dramatic about the whole thing, but there was something about facing the All Blacks that really was different to facing any other team in the world.
There's something dangerous about it, isn't it? Sinister, you know, Darth Vader. There's maybe something about black, you know, I don't know. Bad guys wear black.
To see the black jersey for the first time, and for me, I was 20 years old, and I was nervous. I didn't want to show, but I was nervous in my heart. I was pumping, and it's just an unreal experience that I will always remember.
Je crois que c'est ma 3e sélection. Pour moi, qu'ils avaient toujours regardé derrière mon petit écran, mais voilà, je les avais en face. C'est comme passer d'un claquement de doigts de spectateur à acteur, réussir à prendre la distance par rapport à tout ça. C'est vrai que j'admets que j'avais été assez perturbé par ce moment-là. C'est très compliqué de battre une légende, on va dire.
Bracken clears it off to Wilkinson. Johnson, the captain.
There is something, I think when you see those black jerseys that gets the blood flowing probably more than thinking about anything else. It is big. It is something you have to get over mentally.
It's not like you're up against 15 individuals. It's like it's almost one big black jersey. That can be a pretty intimidating sensation. You need to really kill those demons in the back of your mind if you want to have a chance of beating the All Blacks out on the field.
What a player, John Eales.
Edwards to put the ball in.
I will never ever forget the first time I played against New Zealand, which was out here in Cardiff. I put up and under on a very wet day, and I chased after it, full of the vigour of youth, and I dived into this all-black shirt. I think it was Billy Davis, the centre, and both of us were on the floor, and I stood up, and there was a trickle of blood coming down Billy's face. And I thought, God, they actually bleed. It was an incredible thing to think of in the middle of an international, my first against the All Blacks. But maybe that is what we grew up with. Maybe that's what we'd been led to believe.
Every jersey becomes part of the bigger All Black story, and at Adidas, a team is gathering to start work on the next chapter in All Blacks history. To find a way forward, they start where they left off in 2011.
Every time we start the process, we start at the drawing board, and we always do an autopsy.
Stretch looks okay. I mean, you do it.
The 2011 jersey was, again, a long process of innovation and a fantastic innovation. We achieved what we wanted to do. We made the lightest, most breathable rugby jersey ever made, and I think it also contributed to the success of the All Blacks. But there was one thing that we didn't overcome, which, considering all the success around it, was very disappointing. It did fail on one front, and one quite visible front, in the fact that we had a few ripped. It was hard to take that we had such a visible disappointment. In the end, innovation is about taking risks, and that's the way you only come up with something that's really new. So, yeah, we will take risks, and we'll take big risks because we want big rewards, and if you don't try, you don't get the rewards in the end.
Engage.
But there was more to be learnt from 2011.
What you saw in 2011 was a lot of collapsed scrums, and one of the reasons for this is that the jerseys were getting tighter and tighter and tighter to the point where the tight five in the scrum couldn't grapple and actually couldn't get a hold of each other and were falling down in the scrum. However, we're getting two very different sources of feedback here. The backs are telling us this is the most perfect jersey they've ever worn, and for us that was a clear message. One jersey cannot cure both of those problems. And that was a real opportunity for us, that spark moment. Let's look into developing two different fits.
Work on pattern making for two different fits begins in tandem with the design team embarking on their creative challenge of a new look for 2015.
The All Blacks brief is by far the most important brief that you could get as a designer. The first thing that goes through your mind is don't mess it up. It is, such an iconic jersey.
To be honest, it's quite hard to find the borderline between design and pattern because they go hand in hand, and as well the fabrics.
So it has to be strong, it has to be light enough, it has to be comfortable for the player. If you want to be very strong, that you might lose on the comfort. If you want to increase the comfort, you might lose on the strength. And put everything together in one fabric for that single sport is just a very big challenge.
After 2011, the strength of the fabric is a priority for Adidas.
What became clear from the very beginning is that there might not be something that already exists, and that was something very exciting for us as well, because it meant we could create something that was completely unique and completely innovative.
I've been looking into yarns which have been on space missions, so things which were completely outside of the field of rugby or any sport of this kind. It looks a bit rough, feels a bit rough, but in terms of strength, I mean, the yarn we put in there is the one which has been used on space missions. That has been never used on apparel side, actually. That was used on the airbags for landing a robot on March Planet. So we might not be there in terms of softness yet, but in terms of strength, that's just over the roof, so much over the roof that we're actually in space at the moment with that one. So
we were really excited to see the first fabrics, thinking that, well, this could be the next level. This could be everything we work towards. but when we picked them up, the hand feel was very rough, to the point where it felt a little bit like sandpaper, and that was a deep concern for us.
It feels like already just holding it a bit, you can already get that irritation from it.
You know, the jersey's going to fit so well, we want it to be a second skin, and if that second skin is irritable during a game of rugby, then it could cause some real problems for the players.
Are there ways to treat this? Does it have to come like this?
It's just the first shot. We can definitely improve it.
Quentin was trying to ease my fears, but it's my job to panic at the end of the day, so I always see the negative and the things that could go wrong, so I was very worried at that point.
That the hand feel is something we can't accept.
I really wanted this space yarn to work. It would have been awesome, but unfortunately it was already pushing too far the boundaries, so it was a bit of disappointing, but yeah, we have to move on.
The design of the first New Zealand national jersey suffered a setback of its own. The year was 1884. The New Zealanders' very first rugby jersey was blue wool with the gold fern. A Dunedin businessman put the team together and chose their uniform, but the gold fern was virtually invisible on the dark blue jersey. This was the first and last time the New Zealand team played in these colours. 4 years later, a New Zealand rugby team made up mainly of Māori players played a grueling 107-match tour of Britain and Australia, which spanned 14 months. This team was called the Natives, and their jersey was black, and on it was a silver fern. It was 1888, and the choice of uniform would create history. One of the men to wear that jersey was Thomas Ellison.
My name is Tamati Ellison. Thomas Ellison is my great uncle, and he is responsible for the All Black jersey being black with the silver fern on it.
In the first annual meeting of the New Zealand Rugby Football Union, Thomas Ellison moved that the Natives colour be adopted for the first official New Zealand team. The black jersey with the silver fern would go on to be the only uniform worn by New Zealand national players.
There's a Māori proverb, matea he toa, haramai he toa, or matea he te te kura, haramai he te te kura. When the fern is broken, a new fern will grow back. Once one warrior passes, another will take his place. Once one person's had his chance with the jersey, and then he passes it on to someone else.
The powerful symbolism of the Māori proverb is echoed by every player who has worn the jersey, seeing themselves as guardians of the legacy that is passed down from one man to another. It is a permanent link back to the Natives who first wore the black jersey.
They're a team that not a lot of New Zealanders know very much about. Yet everything about the All Blacks, everything about New Zealand rugby goes back to the Natives. Clever formations on the field, speed of thought and of deed goes back to the Natives. I don't know how New Zealand rugby would have developed if it hadn't been for the Natives. And no other country that plays rugby can say that sort of thing, because these were Maori that brought this about. These were the indigenous people of the land that brought this about. These were the people who in other countries were being marginalised who brought this about. And everything that they did, we still remember day by day by day, and I'm thankful for that.
"125 years after the Natives first wore black with the silver fern, the same jersey is being worked on in circumstances that would have been unimaginable then. This is the epicentre of global sports development for Adidas.
AIT is a really exciting part of Adidas. It's our James Bond type lab here in global headquarters, which is always on the brink of new innovations. The projects that they're working on are years ahead, whether it be the Olympics or whether it be the next World Cup.
Only the top quality teams or products get to be tested by these guys. They're a team of 75 engineers, all with PhDs that are basically future gazers.
We came to them with what we wanted to achieve to see if they had any new technology or any new innovations that could help us.
It was perfect timing. AIT had been working on a groundbreaking technology that was dramatically enhancing their knowledge of body movement.
One thing that was mentioned to us was this idea of a dynamic stretch analysis. Simply put, it was something that would measure the players' bodies during movement and would tell us how much pressure is applied to the skin and in which direction.
So this is the calibration board that we can use for the strain measurement software.
The system knows the distance between these 2 points to within 1,000th of a millimetre.
Okay.
And that's how it measures the stretch so accurately.
All right.
So the technology itself is used in the aerospace and the automotive industry. So, for example, Boeing or Airbus, if they're creating a new plane, are going to use this on their wing bending test to film an entire wing and look at where the strain is occurring and where they might need to reinforce it. So it's really a new development to apply it to sportswear in the way that we're doing here.
If we put rugby players through this innovation, by the end of the process, we would know how to make a rugby jersey replicate the exact movements of a player's skin during the sport of rugby.
No other team in the world of any sport has access to this technology, and this is what's being used to create the perfect jersey for the All Blacks to defend their title. It's just incredible.
The ideal source of data for this groundbreaking technology would be the All Blacks themselves, and so they're brought to Germany to work with the Adidas technicians.
Welcome to Adidas and welcome to AIT. It's a pleasure to have you here today.
The first task was to measure the players' body shapes, and we conducted 3D body mapping, so putting them in a machine which showed them to extremely small measurements. It's all about that collaboration of working with them very closely to find out how to construct the perfect pattern with a perfect fabric.
And the perfect fabric will be one that moves like a second skin. So a new body mapping process will be used for the first time to reveal exactly what happens to an athlete's body as they go through the rigors of a game.
So we paint them up, and then using these special cameras that we have, we're able to then track how their skin is stretching by applying a pattern to them. So first we'll just film someone doing a catch, so jumping and catching. Okay, so 3, 2, 1, and throw.
We started to get excited as we started recording those first movements. There could be something really special here.
So this is then the first frame, and you can see during the movement which direction the skin around the back is stretching, and then you can see the areas where it's highest down by the lats.
We're not quite sure what the results will look like, but that's innovation. Those are the risks that you take to push the boundaries and find out where the edges are.
The original jerseys were wool, long-sleeved and heavy, but most importantly, they were black with a silver fern. And that jersey became a symbol of the dominance of New Zealand rugby in 1905, when a team famously called the Originals set off to Great Britain, the motherland. The game the Colonials had taken with them, they brought back in a new form, playing a hard and fast game that stunned the locals, winning a remarkable 31 of their 32 matches.
And the 1905 All Black tour's legendary. You know, you had a group of men that travelled by boat. I think they were away for 4 months. No professionals. They were hard men that were equipped to face hard tasks.
Many of them were lived in country areas, and they were farmers, they were metal workers, they were road builders. And the physical aspect of rugby suited our personality.
They're not just great All Blacks, they're legends, and they really paved the way and set some standards that we honour to this present day.
You can imagine some poor blokes from an English Midlands team, all dressed in their pristine virginal white, going out onto the field first, then the All Blacks come out. These guys have only heard about, these guys who are, they're like Greek gods to them. And they may have an outward exterior of competitiveness and just a machismo reaction, but inwards they're quaking.
You know, New Zealand's developed this wonderful history around the old underdog status. Maybe it started in moments like that. Everything about this legacy and everything about this jersey can be generated to that tour, those men and what they did.
You carry all of our history on that jersey. They're not there to be carried as baggage. They're there to be carried as kaitiaki or guardians. You carry all of those old people, your tupuna, you carry them with you into battle.
If you're aware of your history, as we very much are in the All Blacks, then you have to lay another layer of performance on top of the one that's been before you. So it's not just about winning the game, it's actually making this garment, this jersey, better than it was, and making the story better than it was, and there's a massive amount of responsibility that comes with that.
On the other side of the Adidas campus, the results of the AIT testing are being shared.
So one of the surprises we found is actually a huge amount of strain on the back on the majority of the movements.
We kept seeing this continuous horizontal stretch across the back.
So even when they're throwing in at line outs, it's still horizontal stretch, not vertical stretch.
It's fairly consistent, which is a good thing for us because it means we can actually, make some conclusions and decide that we want the fabric to act the same way.
The results of the testing point the development of the 2015 jersey in a new direction. None of the 10,000 swatches in the Adidas fabric library are woven in the way the new fabric needs to be. Adidas will need to find a fabric that behaves differently to any of the fabrics currently in use in any sport in the world.
We looked into something still strong but more suitable for comfort, and that's where we came up with carbon woven fabric. That has been never used for anything before. It was still a fully created fabric based on our needs, made to measure to rugby sport specific.
We started developing the pattern, we started getting first mock-ups, so the first kind of constructions of the jersey, how it would fit.
Fit looks good. It's the closest I've ever seen a body seam right across the front of the body, so it makes it very difficult to grab.
It looked great on the model and we were all very confident. However, when we took it off a mannequin and put it on a player and he started to move, we noticed one thing that was quite concerning. Whenever the player moved his arms up, the jersey would move up with him.
Yeah,
Alright.
that's really worrying to see
Yeah.
how it looks there.
Yeah, it looks like the fabric gets stuck over the chest.
It's completely moving up. It's not even one part.
That was a real concern because ultimately we designed this jersey to be the perfect fitting kit. However, if it couldn't stay in the same position, it wouldn't achieve what it needed to be.
We'll find a solution, and I guess we need to look for a new fabric, right?
I was pretty confident that we could find a solution to make sure it would fit for the players. We figured out the carbon woven was the right way to go, but we had to work on the stretch and completely customize the stretch from scratch to make sure it fits all the movements of the players and all the study which has been done by the AIT team.
With the pattern process still posing problems and the option of a carbon woven fabric yet to be successfully incorporated into a jersey, across the campus, the design team are grappling with innovating the look of the world's most iconic jersey.
So when we came to the conclusion what weapon black could be, we started to think how we could use that. And so the simple answer was, how do we create the blackest All Blacks jersey of all time?
We wanted a fabric that actually looked darker, that didn't reflect as much light, almost like a black hole of a fabric, basically. And that's why we used the carbon structure, which actually absorbs more light than a normal fabric.
It wasn't just about making the black as possible, but taking away the other dimensions as well. So this idea, the absence of white. If we take the white away, then automatically we'll have the blackest kit of all time. There was a few big hurdles, and obviously one is the sponsors. Some things have to be visible on the jersey.
We just went for this really dark gunmetal colour, dark enough to actually still stand out and pop off the garment, but was actually much, much darker than anything else that we've ever done before.
The jersey has gone through more changes in the last 2 decades than it had in the 100 years before that, but the desire to wear it is as unchanged as the black and the fern.
So my uncle was an All Black didn't play a lot of tests, maybe 4 or 5. He was a lock forward for the Naki behind the Meads brothers. And in his attic, he used to keep all his old test jerseys. And so us boys used to always run up into the attic and throw them on. So that was the first All Black jersey I ever got to wear. Much too big for me, but still remember it very well. Number 5, I think it was too.
There's bribes. You probably all had them when you were younger. Georgie 5, he scored a try or something like that or whatever. And got to under 13s or something, counties team, and rocked up to the trials. And my dad said to me, "Oh, if you make it, I'll buy you an All Black jersey." He hoped I wasn't going to make it. Well, not hope, because he didn't want to be the thing. He didn't think I was going to make it. And then, promised the world. Yeah, promised the world. And then, I made the team. I was like, stoked. And so I got the All Black jersey and just, lived in it. Loved it. That was awesome.
Yeah, I hate to admit it, but I had one when I was a kid. I had a replica All Blacks jersey. There wasn't many replicas about, but an England one and an All Black one and a Barbarians one. You'd just be an All Black, weren't you? And then you put the England one on, be an England player, and put the Barbarians one on and be Gareth Edwards, or try and be Gareth Edwards.
The jerseys worn as young aspiring players do nothing to prepare a player for putting on their very first jersey as an All Black.
Meads has the ball. He's a human bulldozer, and he scores in the corner.
I was so scared. I had first picked and we had 3 weeks before we went on tour. I can remember sitting next to Wilson Winteray and saying, God, I can't wait to get out on that field. I'm scared I'm going to trip over or fall over on the way out, break my leg, something. I just want to play in this jersey.
Strawn, behind him Tremaine, then Lahore, Kirkpatrick at the back.
We had a final trial and that team was announced. The chairman of the rugby union would come out and everything would go absolutely still and quiet, and he very formally would go from the fullback to the forwards, because number one was a fullback in those days. So they'd start at number one and go right through. Well, I was number 30, the last one to be called out, and you know, it was a dream come true.
And Lahore from the back of the scrum.
It's something that you've sweated blood to get there, and to finally put that jersey, pull it over your shoulders, and I'm sure most of the players would put it on in their rooms before any, where nobody could see them, just to make sure it fitted them.
Again, the little kick. Ryan Ford got the bounce. Now Graham Murray, Laurie Knight.
The jersey is normally handed out the night before the game, and the reality was, I think I used to sleep in mine often the night before a game.
New Zealand ball. Meads breaking to his left.
It was always good as an older All Black to sit and watch a young fella get his first Test jersey and look at it. And I saw one fella kiss it one day, and I thought, oh, come on, this is a man's game, not for that sort of thing. But that's what it meant to people, you know.
Jones, Michael Jones.
I'll never forget getting presented the jersey. The manager calls out your name, and you come and shake his hand, and you get presented it. And then at that moment, you're holding your dream. It's in your hands.
The first time I got my jersey was in Hong Kong, 2008. And I remember going up to the room and putting it all on and looking in the mirror. Thought I was quite handsome. To be honest with you. The rest how it is. They probably took me down a couple of points.
2001, when I first started, you go in the manager's room, and there was our colonel, and he would be in tears and stuff. He was that pumped about any other jersey. Well, he was passionate. I remember sitting in the room, and I was getting emotional, and I didn't know what I was supposed to do. It was my first test. I was like, oh, am I meant to cry? Yeah, I was. It's like, am I meant to cry?
When you get given that jersey at about 3 o'clock for a 7:30 test match, you take it back to your room and you stare at it, and you're just so grateful and thankful that you've been given a great opportunity to wear that All Blacks jersey. I'll turn the jersey over to the number, and I'll just say a little prayer to the Lord and just tell him to watch over me, give me all the strength and things like that, watch over the boys. And then I'll flip it over and I'll go to the Silver Fern and I'll pray to my family and all the loved ones that have helped me get to where I am today.
Yeah, whenever you go on the field to play in a test match, obviously you've got to try and keep the emotion out of it, really, because you've got to be pretty cool and calm. But I know before I went onto the field, probably the last thing I did was to just reach up and to just feel the fern and just remind myself about what it was and how hard it had been to get there, and really what it meant, and just make sure that I lived up to having that jersey on.
Well, I always played in number 5 in my later career, from about 64 onwards, and the odd program had come out with me number 4, but I wouldn't wear it. I'd make sure I wore number 5. So, I was a very superstitious player, and I can remember sitting in a dressing room with Kel Tremaine, because we always sat together. And a young player came into the side, and he sat between us, and Tremaine, I can remember, he was told where to go, sort of thing. So we had those traditions and superstitions, but, once you put that black jersey on, you knew you were going out there to represent your country, and nothing but 100% will do.
The carbon woven fabric has been used in a new jersey prototype which is ready for testing.
The whole process of developing an All Blacks jersey has to be done in complete secrecy. because it is something that's out there and really truly new. So we use white jerseys for testing or blue jerseys for testing. Even here at Adidas, we don't want anybody even to look out of the window and put two and two together and guess what we're doing.
Today's one of the biggest days for us. It's kind of a culmination in the process. We're seeing the first time the design, the fabric and the construction all coming together. So far it's looking really great. Obviously we were revolutionising the fit, but we had to make sure that we weren't sacrificing any of the other properties that, you know, players need in the sport of rugby. So the weight of the jersey, the comfort, the breathability. So all of these things needed to be continuously tested. We had to make sure it could stand the rigours of the game.
We always have in the back of our mind the jersey in 2011. We had those few rips, and a lot of the issues were caused by stud penetration. So we've left no stone unturned for 2015 to find something that can deal with the wear and tear of the game. The science looks good, the fabric looks good. We're using carbon woven fabric, so it should be super strong. But till we test, we don't know.
So that's really encouraging.
No weakness points, nothing.
So I think the next step is to get it on players, and I think we can be quite confident now going into the next sample round and taking it to New Zealand.
Yeah.
We took it down to Masterton to test in one of the pre-season games with the Hurricanes against the Blues. And we disguised the jersey so nobody knew it was the All Black jersey. They just know they're testing the new jersey for Adidas. They don't know when it's going to be used or what it's going to be used for. Hopefully they won't find out in the next few hours.
Please welcome the Blues!
Today's really crucial in part of the testing, so we've flown halfway around the world to be here. We've been developing it now for about 14 months. You know, we've had up to 8 different options that we've had in play at any one time, and now we're down to the last 3. We've done 3 intense rounds of testing already, and we're pretty confident one of the 3 will work. But obviously we've got some emotional investment in the one we believe to be the most technical and the most innovative. We think we've got something that's really going to work, but if it doesn't work today, we're really in a bit of bother, because the next one is the final jersey that the All Blacks will wear in the World Cup.
When the players came off at half-time, they replaced a couple of players and they gave us their jerseys. And when I touched it, I was going, oh my God.
Oh. So this has only been worn for 20 minutes. 20 minutes. And it's super wet across the shoulders, across the arms. Pretty much everywhere it's super wet.
This is really bad. I mean, I've never seen a jersey as wet as that jersey was that came off that player.
Far from ideal, what we're looking for.
The shirt didn't wick the moisture away properly, so the players were left with moisture on the skin, which might cause them to overheat. It was just unbelievable how wet the jersey was, and to have it in the hands of the manager of the All Blacks was a long way from ideal.
The jersey was just like dripping wet. That was a concern.
It was quite a nice fit, to be honest. Like, in terms of jersey I've worn, this is probably up there. It's tight in the right areas, if that makes sense.
The body's great, the arms are just a bit tight.
Okay, cool.
We were fairly happy the jersey hadn't broken, but we clearly had an issue with wicking and we had to improve the moisture management at the next stage.
It's almost like spinning plates sometimes. It's like you get 10 things right, but if the 11th one doesn't work, it's no good. There's no point in completely being the perfect fit and the perfect stretch and the perfect strength if it has something like the abrasion or what we learned in Masterton. If it's not a breathable jersey, then that is not acceptable.
The demands of a modern jersey as a piece of performance technology is a far cry from the jerseys of old.
Well, our jerseys were your real rugged, sort of tough jersey. There was no frills. It was just your basic black jersey with the silver fern, the All Black and the white collar.
The older jerseys certainly weren't form-fitting. They were quite loose. So they were pretty easy for the opposition to grab. So I generally made sure mine was tucked in.
A lot of us used to cut our sleeves off because it was just extra weight to carry around. And a lot of our coaches didn't like us cutting the sleeves off it, you know, it was denigrating the jersey, but and the players that wanted to cut them off just cut them off.
They were always quite heavy, you know, compared to the modern jersey, and we'd always be that hot and steamy, but it was good to get into the dressing room after it was all over and take your jersey off and throw it in your bag, and that goes to the washing next week sort of thing.
The technology of the jerseys improved so much. You certainly have to be in the right shape to be wearing it. But, you know, it's an enhancing garment for performance. So, there's been a lot of changes, but we often talk about the two things that have never changed, that are, the all blackness of it and the silver form.
When I got back from Masterton, time was running out. We learnt a huge amount about why some of the jerseys were covered in sweat. It just, and only just, gave us time to be able to modify the jerseys, and we think we found the solutions.
We addressed the wicking issue by giving it a treatment that draws the moisture from the skin through the garment to the surface to allow it to evaporate.
And we also actually added a new panel underneath the shoulder where we inserted some mesh as well to make the garment more breathable.
So we retested, we took it to the lab, we took it to the climate lab we have here, where you can test jerseys and people in all sorts of humidity, and it passed with a special treatment on it. The wicking capabilities were fantastic. It was really taking moisture away from the skin to ensure that the athletes can stay cool when they're running around in the World Cup.
If you can stop Toby for a second and turn around, you can actually see on the middle part of his back where people normally produce a lot of heat and a lot of sweat. Toby's actually still feeling quite cool, and he's still in a range of 24 degrees, so that's actually perfectly what we're aiming at. It's a good example. I mean, it's off the record, but I'm impressed, yeah.
With the successful result of the performance testing, a prototype's made for a select group of All Blacks to try the different fit for the forwards and the backs.
This is super tight. Like the fit when you get it on, it's quite tight to put it on, but once it's on there, it's not too bad.
To see it come from what they showed us in Herzo, 8 months ago, 7 months ago, and then to see it here, there, and try it on, it's pretty cool to be a part of the process.
The tightness of the jersey, I think, would help me. Just when I'm running through holes and trying to get around players, they won't be able to grab onto the jersey.
It looks awesome.
It looks tough.
A camera test for television is staged to make sure the gunmetal grey numbers and the logos for the All Blacks, Adidas and AIG will be visible on camera when the players are on the field.
So that's all right, yeah. Yeah, that's fine, yeah, that is. So we're done up here, I think, eh? Okay, cheers, radio.
With the final test complete, the jersey is ready to be launched to the public and players ahead of an All Blacks test in the UK.
So today we're here in London in the Royal Garden Hotel. Today we're doing the big media event. Well, for the first time we'll be showing the jerseys to the world. We're not practicing anymore, we're not rehearsing. This is it, this is the big event. So yeah, it's become very real now.
Well, welcome to London, guys. After 2 years in the making, it's the moment we've all been waiting for, the time to share it with you. So I'll just hand a few out to you.
I absolutely love it. It is such a classic, well-tailored look. So your first impressions, how sharp it looks, the blackness of the jersey. I just want to put it on and run out there and play.
So, I mean, the first thing you probably notice about it, it's the blackest jersey ever. The texture, it looks like carbon fibre, and it stretches just from side to side in two ways. So it stretches that way, which mirrors the way your skin actually moves when you're performing, but there isn't any stretch vertically like that. What we also did, it's the first jersey ever that's been specifically engineered for forwards and backs. So it's definitely the most technical jersey we've ever made, and we hope it's going to bring you guys a lot of advantages going into the Rugby World Cup in 2015.
The carbon woven fabric is amazing. You can stretch it sideways, so it just makes it so much more fitted around your body, but then you try and stretch it up and down and it just won't move. So when a player's trying to tackle you and your jersey normally gives a little bit and they can hold on to it, it won't be able to do that. So hopefully be able to break a few more tackles.
Overall excitement, a little bit of nerves, and when you see the TV cameras, a little bit more of the nerves, but after a 2-year journey, it's great to be able to share what we've done with the rest of the world.
It's one thing to see it on a prototype, on a sketch, on a mannequin, but to see it on the players, there's nothing competes with that.
The guys on stage look absolutely phenomenal, and look like superheroes up there, are ready to go into battle with their armour on. It's absolutely amazing to see them for the first time in person wearing the kit. does look big, black and intimidating. So it's fantastic to see all that come together.
It embraces what an All Black jersey should be. It's the blackest one there's ever been, and it's got the fern on it, and that's what wearing All Black jersey is all about. What they've come up with is pretty special.
It feels really good. It's you know, nice and snug on the body.
When you're involved in a process like this, it's good to see the finish line. I suppose there's still a few steps to go, and that's this weekend. As much as we're absorbed in the game, we'll also be, you know, a little eye will be looking on the jersey and making sure it does what we all hope that it would do. So looking forward to it.
Perfect. The reaction from the players and the press is absolutely tremendous, but the job's not done yet. The guys have to play in it, and you can't replicate in testing the rigours of an international rugby match. It's something that's truly unique. So there's still going to be some nervous moments tomorrow as the guys run out there and take on England.
Before the jersey makes its debut on the field, each one is embroidered with the players' names, the number of tests they've played, and the details of the game, making every jersey ever worn completely unique.
Looking out in the crowd and seeing the black jersey, it kind of brings it home that you're not just playing for yourself, you're representing all these little kids out there, and you're playing for the whole of New Zealand. The big thing is trying to not see it as a burden and not let it weigh you down. You use it to lift you when the going gets tough, just to really drive it home. That last 10 minutes, it can do wonderful things.
Seeing our fans in a place like Twickenham, and there's 70-odd dozen Englishmen and maybe 5,000 Kiwis, but you can still hear the Kiwis chanting and calling. So, you know, it's really powerful and really lifts us up.
The scariest aspect of launching any jersey is the first time it's worn on the field of play. So much stress, so much power of the players, and so much contact. With something as sensitive as a jersey, you never know what could happen. There's so many unknowns.
I think I'll feel a lot better afterwards when we sit down with the players, but right now, yeah, a little bit nervous.
Has been really, really challenging. It's the most challenging project I've worked on in my 20 years at Adidas, without a doubt. But I think, you know, if it does help, and if we have found a way to help the team win, then all that effort is thoroughly worthwhile.
The jersey looks fantastic. Just 80 more minutes now to see what happens, and hope the team gets a great result. And the jersey really performs like we said it will. First try for the new jersey. England are playing really well. They've been really, really physical. So it's a fantastic test for the jersey. If it can come through this sort of battering, it'll come through anything.
Scrum seem to be holding up well.
We achieved what we initially set out to do. We wanted to create the greatest fitting rugby jersey of all time.
It's probably the most innovative product that Adidas will come out with, certainly in 2015, and probably more innovative than anything else we have there. It's more than just a jersey. It's a symbol of our nation. It's a symbol of our pioneering spirit. It's a symbol of our determination to win.
It doesn't matter whether you put the jersey on in 1905 or you put the jersey on today. Every jersey is special. A lot of that is carried within here. Carried within your mana, within your pride, within your heart, what you're willing to give and put on the line for that jersey, for that ball, for our country.
When your legs are absolutely done and you're gasping for breath, you just have a look down and you realise what's expected of an All Black. They don't give up, they just keep going till the whistle goes. I know for myself that's the sort of motivation or that little bit extra you might get when you're playing for the All Blacks. No matter whether you've been around 5 minutes, 5 years or longer, you're all playing for something that's bigger than yourselves. I think that's what's pretty special.
Black for me is pride.
honour and also, I'd say, respect.
Black to me is an encompassing force of power.
Black is history of success.
Black is invincible. Black is taking on the world.
You know, black is a beautiful colour.
The All Blacks jersey is more than just a piece of fabric. What is it?
Well, actually, it's 20% cotton, 30% silk, and what's the other? 50% polyester. Polyester. That's what the jersey is actually made of. Can't tumble dry it. Has to be hand washed. Hand washed. Every week. Every sand. Come on.
You started it.